trans patients with beards can be sent towards female wards in Scottish hospitals thanks to NHS policies and procedures allowing them to self-identify as women. NHS Tayside's dignity and privacy policy states today that patients must not normally be placed in mixed-sex wards, and any that are should receive an apology, but BUT underlined. It says that trans people should be sent to wards that match their presentation, a term defined as the way they dress, their name and the pronouns that they currently use. So we've spoken a lot about this before. It's really simple. We've both got teenage daughters. So my daughter or my wife, your daughter or your wife, are going to be in a hospital, maybe in a vulnerable position, and a man with a penis could be in the bed next to them.
And a beard.
Honestly, mate, I genuinely despair.
So have we...
This is Scotland.
These people, particularly in Scotland, have not learnt the lessons of Nicola Sturgeon.
Not at all.
Her career was completely blighted by the fact that she insisted, and we could see that she wasn't very comfortable with it in the end because she realised that she had no argument. She was advocating men who identify as women being in women's prisons, even if they were sexual predators, even if they were rapists. So that destroyed her career. Yet those similar people...
Is it Swiney or Swinney?
Swinney, John Swinney. But similar people...
Not learned the lesson.
Similar people have, yes, kind of had no regard for that and decided that... And don't forget, this is about being able to self-identify. So you can always wake up one morning, decide that you are a woman instead of a man, identify as such, and then do what you like. It should be no surprise to us that there is now a large proportion of sex offenders in this country that identify, so men sex offenders, that now conveniently identify as women on purpose to game the system, particularly in Scotland actually, so that they can end up having a cushy number going through the justice system.
And this is my point, and I've said this all afternoon, and it's been met with some actual support. All the people that I hear, and quite rightly, arguing for women's rights, go very quiet when this starts. I would have thought that this is an example of how women could be put in very, very vulnerable positions. Why is there not an outcry for women in this instance and women's safety?
Yeah, there was something that I read at the weekend where someone was trying to advance the argument that, this whole thing about men dressing as women and being in women's changing rooms and exposing themselves and then committing offences in those changing rooms is not a thing, apparently. It's a myth. That's something apparently that the right have put forward as a kind of myth. But you know what? This particular journalist listed all of the incidents that have been perpetrated by men in wigs and lipstick that are in women's changing rooms whereby they had committed offences, assault, sexual offence and so on. The list was extensive, I can tell you.
So how can they write an article saying it doesn't exist then?
No, I'm saying the people on the left would argue against it, whereas the reality is this is a problem. And look, yes, as fathers of teenage girls, we obviously don't want those individuals in those changing rooms. But the world's gone mad. If we're now favouring someone that decides, particularly if they want to manipulate a system, that they are a woman instead of a man, which, by the way, shock horror, you can't do that. You cannot.
So can we point out
cannot be a woman?
They're a criminal.
You're either a man or a woman. There's only two. You have to, and you can't even decide. You are born as you are. It's not a choice anyway. But yes, we are now favouring the whimsical wants and needs of people with mental illnesses. Let's be honest, people with mental illnesses instead of women and indeed girls. Again, have we learnt nothing from Rochdale and Telford and so on? Protecting our young females in this country seems to be absolutely not a priority.
I don't understand. We seem to protect all sorts of people. This to me, listen to Mark in Devon. Jeremy, there's times when I feel absolutely ashamed of being a man. Why is it that some of us feel the need to try and take away and infiltrate the spaces and structures in society that women fought so hard for? You hardly ever hear about this thing happening the other way round. And the reasons are obvious. These men disgust me. Thankfully, it's slowly feeling like we've hit peak wokeness and that common sense is coming and bringing us back from the brink. I bloody well hope so, because I would love to have John Swiney or whatever his name is to explain to me, you idiot, how you can possibly justify to women that you're not putting them in a vulnerable position in your quest to what? What is even the common sense in saying that Isla Bryson was a rapist?
A rapist, yes.
Right. He
went to a women's
forced
prison.
himself on two women whose lives will be blighted forever, And Nicola Sturgeon put him in a female prison because he put a wig on and a pair of tights.
And if we want to extend this ridiculous scenario in terms of you being able to identify as a man as a woman or vice versa, where does that stop? Can we identify as whatever we want? I mean, you know, I don't know.
I'm
animals?
identifying as a radio presenter today.
You're not doing a bad job, I have to say.
I mean,
but you know, can we identify as, I don't know, can I identify as black?
I don't know the answer to
presumably I
Don't
can.
you remember the outrage when Piers Morgan said, I'm identifying as a black one-legged lesbian? The world went absolutely nuts.
Yeah, so if I'm a criminal, can I just identify as innocent and get off?
Don't know, mate. Weird.
Well, no, presumably. That's the natural extension.
This says, could you be aware that Russell has to be clear by 6:25?
I've got an event at the brewery in East London. It's a property event. See you there, everyone.
Oh, lovely.
It's the What House Awards winners' dinner. There you go.
Wow. Well, I won't be letting you out till 6:35.
Free drinks.
So you've dealt with that quite well. You expect me to... Let's talk about Badenoch. So she was on MG this morning.
Kev, did I say Kev? I'm so used to being on a proper show. Sorry. You can throw whatever you like at me, Jeremy.
Did you just say what I thought? I found you, polished you, and gave you opportunities.
I'm your protégé, and I throw it back at you.
Oh, my God. No, so Kemi Badenoch was on Mike Graham this morning, and one of my criticisms of Badenoch, and I've been really quite vociferous about this, is that I don't believe she's been vocal enough. I don't believe this. It takes 10 months to find out what you need to say to the British public. And I keep saying to the Tories, what's happening is your ground is being stolen by Reform, who are far more vocal. Today, she came on. One of the big things, and I'd love the Essex response to this, is about fracking. This is what she said. Have a listen.
A lot of people think that we should be fracking, but I also know that many communities don't want it where they are, that it causes problems for them. We need to make sure that we've got local consent for things like that, not just imposing it. So how do we make sure we've got a plan that goes across the board, that works, that is not going to bankrupt us? That's what I'm working on now.
That's what I'm working on now. OK, so the two examples here are Donald Trump drill, baby, drill. We've got gas and oil, billions of pounds worth. But no, we're with the government who seemingly believe that wind farms stealing land from farmers will lower your bills. No, the bills have gone up, you idiots, because it can't make enough because nobody planned and will have to import it. Why is she not putting her neck on the line and saying, here we go. I'll tell you why. Because she's in charge of a party that doesn't know its arse from its elbow, and she's being an... I don't believe that she can last. I don't believe it for a minute.
Look, I think the Conservative Party made a mistake in electing her as leader. I think it should have been probably the best of a bad bunch, and it should have been Robert Jenrick. I don't think Robert Jenrick has perhaps got the total authenticity that he should, because 2 or 3 years ago he was not the right-wing anti-ECHR guy that he is now. But put that to one side for a second. The problem with Kemi, and I'm sure she means well, I just don't think she has the gravitas. I don't think she has the authenticity. I don't think she has the political mind. What we need is someone with conviction that actually already has an ideology and a vision. I don't think you need to sit there thinking about what you're going to be.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I completely agree. I thought you'd been listening to me, because I don't care their political persuasion. Maybe it's Nigel, maybe it's somebody else, maybe somebody on Labour will surprise me. I want a politician to stand up, put what they believe in to the British people and say, Trump-esque, I will do this despite legal challenges, despite judges and pressure groups and newspapers and whatever. And if you don't want that, don't vote for me. We don't have that. We talked earlier about Thatcher. In the end, she sacked people who disagreed, and in the end, they all sacked her. But that conviction politician, I believe, and I've said this about radio presenters and television presenters with the way the world's changed, I believe that most politicians are so focused on focus groups and who to upset the least that they think about everything. They don't shoot from the hip because they're so concerned. They go down the same line. And honestly, they're so busy trying to keep their jobs, they forget to do their bloody jobs. I really believe that.
Jez, I got it right that time.
Well done. Julia?
I truly believe that where politicians back in the 70s, 80s and 90s had a view and a vision and conviction around an ideology, and there was an authenticity to that. Since Alistair Campbell, he is to blame for this, what I call, we all call post-truth politics.
Post-truth politics.
No, spin, basically, is, right, let's see which way the wind is blowing, let's look at polls, let's talk to the media, let's see where we need to position ourselves
let's go
to get some votes.
No, absolutely.
But rather than saying, as Thatcher did, and I know we're going back a long, long time, she hasn't been Prime Minister, obviously, since, 1991, but what we had with Thatcher was someone that believed what she believed in, said it, and you either fell in behind her or you didn't.
Or you got sacked.
She did win 3 landslide elections as a consequence. What we now have is a bunch of populists, and we don't really know what they stand for. And because we don't know what they stand for, you've now got, you look at Rishi Sunak versus Keir Starmer. I mean, there is nothing between them, really, in terms of ideology. Neither of them, Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Precisely.
Neither of them did anything about immigration. Both of them raised taxes.
Yep.
Both of them destroyed the country by way of the economy. Both of them were soft on crime. We call them the Labour and the Conservative mob, if you like, the uni party. And I think we should pay big attention to that on the basis that I think the old party politics of Labour versus the Conservatives, as those two really being the only alternatives, that's gone. That's finished. Because there's nothing between them. There is no vision, no authenticity, no ideology. I'd like to have thought, not because I'm necessarily a supporter, but because they are almost the revolution that's coming up next, reform would have been the answer. But look, we can rehearse this for the next 20, 30 minutes, no doubt, in terms of what reform have done to themselves over the last few weeks, to split themselves, destroy their credibility, move to the left, big question marks over Nigel Farage, whether he should now be in place. I mean, I genuinely worry about the political direction of this country and the state of it. Who's going to save it, Jeremy?
Completely agree with you.
Who's gonna
£6:15. Let's go to the phone lines. I completely agree. Saeed is in London. Saeed, you're on with Jeremy Kyle, and Russell Quirk is here. What can we do for you, fella?
Yeah, look, I think women should play women-only sports. But I just think that the amount of radio time and print time we spend on this is just ridiculous. The US has about 510,000 athletes who compete at an elite college level. Of these, 10 are transgender. So we should address this issue and move on. Similarly, in prisons, 0.1% of the prisoners are trans. So when we talk about prisoners, I think we need to focus on why are so many people there, how do we make sure they don't reoffend, etc.
I'm gonna
trans issue.
Saeed, I'm gonna find myself disagreeing with you. Have you got a teenage daughter, fella?
No, I don't.
Well, I do, and let me tell you, if my teenage daughter is in hospital, and I'm being completely serious, and I appreciate your call, I do not want to. I think it is absolutely fundamentally wrong to just say there's a few thousand or 1%. I don't want, okay, a man with a penis in a female ward with my daughter. And furthermore, answer this. You are saying, let's just concentrate on why people are committing crime. I don't disagree with that, but hold on one second. We're getting to a point now where men who can attack women will say that they identify as a woman to get a more lenient, cushy time, and women are being attacked. That is an outrage, Saeed.
No, but again, the numbers, you need to back it up with how many trans women are they who are attacking. And you will find that their offence rates are negligible and are in line with the rest of the population. So
in line with the rest of the population? What do you mean by that?
Look, if the biggest threat to your teenage daughter are men, cis men, right? That is what we should all be focused on. Not this incredibly tiny minority of evil trans women who might do something.
Sorry, can I ask you a question? How many men in wigs in women's prisons that have been done for rape do you think is acceptable to the female population of that prison? And how many? How many is okay? 5, 20, 50?
You tell me how many are they?
Well, it doesn't matter, because I think if there's one or more, it's one or more too many. Let me give you another example, Saeed. Now, hang on one second.
You know basic statistics.
Let me just give me... No, it doesn't matter about statistics. I don't want a man that has raped women in either a women's prison, and I do not want any man in a wig with a penis in a changing room with my daughters. And the fact that you think it's okay because it's only a few of them, I'm gobsmacked by. Let me just give you one quick example as well. You talk about women in sport. I tell you why it's important that we highlight this and we keep banging on about it. My daughter is 15, as Jeremy says, teenage daughter. She plays paddle. You know, paddle at quite a high level. She trains 5 days a week. She flies around Europe training. She is incredibly hardworking and disciplined. She went to a tournament last year and got into the final, and she was knocked out by somebody. Guess who that person was? A trans woman. A man masquerading as a woman in the final of a paddle tournament. Guess what my daughter said to me on the way home as a consequence of that knockout? Dad, why am I bothering? Do you think that's okay for women's sport? You think that's okay?
Women's sports should be for biological women. I agree with that.
Okay.
But
it's okay to have biological men in women's prisons?
Look, I do
said.
not think that should be right either. Right?
You've changed your tune side. It's not what you said at the beginning of this conversation.
No. I didn't know. You're misinterpreting or misrepresenting my point. I am saying that these issues are a very small, marginal proportion of the issue we have.
I don't think. Listen, Said. Everybody is entitled on this show to have an opinion, and I appreciate your call. I would simply say, as a father of a teenage daughter, I do agree with Russell absolutely on this. One man dressed as a woman in a female ward that could threaten any woman is, in my opinion, too much. Really appreciate you coming on this side. Really important we get all sides. Let's go to Northampton. Tracy, you're on Talk Drive. Russell's with me.
Hello, darling. I think you're just bloody marvellous. You ought to have your own TV show, interviewing people, politicians, because you're brilliant at it.
Well, I'm going to say something that's going to shock everybody.
He's been doing it for a little while.
Why doesn't everybody just take a chill pill and wait just a few weeks?
Well,
Crack on.
I'm telling you what, you are the next sort of like person we need to get on telly to get things sorted.
Wow.
Well, I'm ringing up about the immigrants.
And that's right, are you talking to Jeremy or to
Were
me?
you talking to Russell then, weren't you?
I'm talking to Jeremy.
And who's the other person in the studio?
Russell.
Do you think he deserves a TV show? Say no.
Well, he could be your sidekick.
I can make his tea. Can I? Thanks.
I'm sorry, I'm literally going to choke with
That's
joy.
basically where I am right now. Yes.
Can you wait till I
Yeah.
say you can speak? Right, Trace, crack on. Trace, what you got?
Right, immigrants, right? I am absolutely... I get so angry, right? How they're coming over here on them boats. Do you know on Sunday there was 335 immigrants on Sunday that came over? That was just Sunday, okay? And I cannot believe that we're welcoming them. Come on over, we're going to give you a mobile phone, a house to live in, food, drink, you have what you want. We welcome you here. What about us as the British? The British people are not fighting for our country. And I'll tell you what, this ain't going to be Britain soon anymore because they're like ants and they're taking over. And I'm telling you this now, Prince Charles, right, ought to be ashamed of
King
himself.
Charles.
Whatever he is, right?
Constitutional monarch, can't get involved.
Well,
you said, listen to
He
me.
ought to because...
I
this
think...
country, if immigrants come in this country, they will take over. We won't have a royal family.
I think that we would all agree calmly that there seems to be so much wokerattery, so much ideology, so much madness in the world, Russ, at the moment. It's not in the world, actually, in this country. That and this isn't a platform to call for change. It's a platform to allow people like Said to have a different opinion. I respect that.
That's what I love about this channel.
But I will say this: I do believe that a time is fast approaching when the docile British normal public, everyday men and women with beards, the men, are not prepared any longer to be stripped of well, almost their dignity. And whilst we've founded...
And their opinion.
Thanks, Trace. Whilst we were founded as a country to be fair and to help others, I get all that. But the basic truth is this. We can't afford to provide our own people with what our own people need. And that is not going to go away, and that is why the pressure will build and build.
Yeah, it will, but I think we're starting to see what this is now all about. There's an economic argument from the left, which is wrong and incorrect, that we need immigrants because our birth rate is not high enough, and those immigrants are going to prop up the economy of the country. That actually 25 years ago was probably true, because we genuinely were bringing in people that were engineers, doctors.
I've done my bit for the babies. I've had 6.
Well, you have, and hopefully you're stopping there. But anyway, but unfortunately, what we've ended up with post-Blair, post-1997, of course, is literally an open-door policy. So no checks and balances, boat people and so on. So of course, we now have a large proportion of immigration that comes to this country, legal and illegal, which is not contributing to the country. The other problem is, I think, is that there's now a political ideology on the left, I think, that because It's almost, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, the whole kind of great replacement theory thing, but I think there is some truth in those on the left that I think that if they allow this open door policy, they are effectively creating the Labour voters of the future.
I agree.
It's exactly what happened in the US.
I completely agree. Just in terms of what that woman said, do you remember Dame Edna Everage?
Yes.
Do you remember when she had that old woman in a dress called Madge with the badge?
Yes, the old lady. Is that
Russ,
you and me?
Russ on the bus. I can see it all now. A whole new thing. So you're off to a property thing, are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, with my tail between my legs now. My ego's suitably deflated.
No, you'll be absolutely fine. Come dine with me.